I'm making this video to say hi to Kenan and hi to all those viewers who, just like me, really enjoy watching Kenan's channel. Down in Florida, they've had a cold snap, and I understand this winter they might have a couple more cold snaps. And that can be kind of a pain. I wanted to make a video to show everybody what it's like when you live in a place where a cold snap isn't just a snap. A cold snap is kind of the rule. I live in Alaska, just outside of Anchorage. I live in Eagle River. And as you can see, this is my reality for a majority of the year. 7 to 8 months a year, this is what my front yard and what my neighborhood looks like. So up here, all the magic of tortoise keeping happens inside my house. Even in the summer months when it's warmer out, I only take the tortoises out for supervised excursions outside because there are a lot of dangerous animals that walk through my neighborhood nearly every day during the summer and spring. We have black bears and brown bears that wander through here. We have moose that wander through here. So it's a little bit different than the occasional coyote, the little raccoons, and the foxes that you guys might see down there in the lower 48, especially down there in Florida and other southern states where you guys are keeping tortoises outside year round. So let's head inside. I'll take off a couple layers because it's a lot warmer in there than it is out here. And I'll show you all the animals that I keep up here. They're all tortoises and turtles, and how I keep them up here to keep them as healthy as I can without the benefits of a lot of natural sunlight that most of you in the lower 48 have. So come on, let's go inside. Okay, Kenan Army viewers, welcome inside my house, and this is what I call the Arctic Reptile Ranch. I'm going to take you around and show you all the animals that happen to live up here in Alaska with me. To start this tour off, we'll begin with Mara. Mara is a Burmese star tortoise. You can see she has her hide back there with moist moss in it. There's grass growing in her cage. She has her UV lights and a heating lamp. Her hide box is heated with a Exoterra thermal wire, and then I use these types of things to keep it from being too hot because at full power it's way too warm for their bellies. Below is my cherry head red-footed tortoise, Kiwi. She also has a box full of human stuff. When I received her, she had a horrible upper respiratory infection. It took a month of daily antibiotic doses and force feeding her critical care food to get her to where she is now, just as rambunctious, alert, and alive as any other red-footed tortoise. So now as we swing around the room, you'll see there's a lot to get to, and trust me, we will. In this top cage is a female Russian tortoise. Her name is Natasha. Coming down lower is her mate, Boris. They're separated because they're overly enthusiastic when it comes to mating, and that leads to a little bit of discomfort for the female with him chasing her around all the time, biting at her. So it's best to just keep them apart unless it's active mating time. Next to him is a male star tortoise named Rigel. Down here we have Harambe, and he's a red-footed tortoise. Harambe gets his name because when I received him, he'd been kept the previous 8 years in a glass aquarium that was 18 inches by 36 inches. The only substrate he had was a little carpet that didn't really stay on the bottom. So from walking like that his whole life, he's kind of developed a weird malformation of his bones in his arms and hands. And it kind of reminded me of a gorilla, so that's why I gave him the name Harambe. Moving over is yet another red-footed tortoise. This red-footed tortoise's name is Sauron. I'll see if we can show you why. Right there, that backmost scoot on him looks like the eye of Sauron. And up here in this tank are the first two leopard tortoises. They're kept in an enclosed environment so that I can adequately control the humidity and temperature. Up above, the top is kind of blocked off to keep both of those relatively stable. The one closest to us is Valentine because of the heart shape on its back. This guy over here is named Eclipse because on its back it looks like an eclipse as it goes through the various phases of the moon. Moving over and down, we have a young, about an 8-month-old Indian star tortoise. Her name is Nova. Most of the star tortoises get their names from celestial objects because they are stars. So supernova, Rigel is a star, the male introduced earlier. And this one over here, this is Andromeda. I think somewhere along her line she might have been crossbred with a cow, given the way she actually eats and how fast she grows. You can see despite her fast growth and how much she eats, she's still super smooth. Above her is another enclosure with young leopard tortoises. This one's been named multi-scoot because its back scoots are separated. And this one is contrast because, well, its pattern contrasts pretty well. Something you'll notice while I'm over here is that a lot of these enclosures have somewhat barren bottoms with a little bit of grass growing. That's because I recently replanted grass. The way all of my enclosures are set up is they have these tubes right here that go down to the subterranean level. And water I introduce directly into the tube. It fills up the bottom where the clay rocks are, and then it slowly leaches up into the dirt, that way feeding all of the plants that happen to grow in there. Usually it's grass and some other weeds. Occasionally I'll put a cactus in there for them to munch on. I'll put lettuces in there from time to time. But that's just one way to primarily keep the dirt above basically dry normally, but just below the surface there's moisture, so when they want to dig down, which she does often enough, there's a nice humid microclimate for them. Now moving up here is the other Burmese star tortoise that I have. Her name is Maya. The inspiration for the Burmese star tortoise's name comes from the Disney movie Lady and the Tramp. The cats are Siamese cats, which of course these are Burmese, not Siamese, but I like their name. They're named Sai and Ann. So I have Maya and Mara because modern day Burma is called Myanmar, whereas modern day Siam is what we call Thailand. Another relatively rare and exotic tortoise is my big guy who lives in a cage that is 7 feet by 4 feet in my dining room. This is the Radiated tortoise Titan. He says, "Hello, leave me alone while I eat." He has his nighttime warming box that I keep in the mid-80s. That's heated with a ceramic heating element that's a 50 watt, really low wattage, and a Exoterra heat cord on the back wall. During the daytime, he gets his heat from these two lamps over here. There's a full spectrum UV lamp and an LED light just for more or less ambient lighting to make it brighter for him. Moving around the room, we come over here to the Pancake tortoises. He's already eating. Their enclosure is set up a little bit different than everybody else. They have these stacking tiles that give them areas and spaces for them to hide in during the daytime or nighttime, whichever they prefer. Their cage is heated by a similar heat lamp, but to keep it warm, I have one of those Exoterra wires back here heating the back wall. And that usually keeps this down here, even at nighttime, in the low to mid 80s, which is a decent nighttime temperature for them. The male, who is currently eating, is Pie. The female is Maple. As we move down lower now, we have Eastern box turtles. That is the female, Tiffany. When I was thinking of a name for her, my little sister said, well, the only famous box I know are Tiffany's boxes. So, she's named Tiffany. His name came along a little bit afterwards. His name is Jones. And he gets that name because of what he does to the cage. Day in and day out, he's always digging, finding a new hole. So just like Indiana Jones, he's somewhat of an archaeologist. And the final tortoises on the tour are Beagle and Fitz, the Galapagos tortoises. Similar to Titan, they're in a pretty large cage. Titan's the Radiated tortoise. They're in a pretty large cage. They'll stay in here probably until August when I move back to the lower 48. and I'll have an outside enclosure for them once they get back down there. But they're also heated up with 2 par 38 tungsten filament light bulbs. That's the heat lamps they use on everybody that has a heat lamp. They also, of course, have their T5 high output UV light and an LED lamp just behind that for more ambient lighting. Another feature of their cage is their hay bale that they eat from often enough. Because their back legs need workouts, I've put kind of larger logs in here to give them stuff to climb over and exercise that back part of their bodies. It's nothing like a boulder or rock, but I'd also have to manage movement with escaping. And then back here, they have their heated warm box that they go in and out of mostly at nighttime, and it's also kept in the mid-80s. We'll take one last look around the room, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some of the unique aspects of keeping all of these tortoises up here in Alaska. So people ask all the time, how hard is it to keep tortoises up in Alaska? It's not really as difficult as you would think. Tortoises, they just do their own thing. They live in their enclosures, they eat, they sleep, they crap a lot more than you would expect, especially those big ones with all the hay they love to chow down on. But one of the things that is unique about Alaska is heat. It's cold up here. I have to keep my house kind of warm. I have to keep my whole house warm, and then I have to have a little bit extra heat on all the cages, all the enclosures over here. So my electric bills in the wintertime can be $450. In the wintertime, my gas bill, gas is what heats my house, my gas bill is also in the $400 range. But it's nice and cozy when you get out of the shower. That's one sure benefit of keeping all these tortoises up here. Another unique thing is expanding the tortoise collection isn't that easy. While some of my tortoises came up here with me when I moved up in 2012, some of them had to be shipped up to me, and that can get kind of expensive. Typical overnight shipping from the lower 48, even as far as Florida, cost me about $92 instead of the typical $50 that I used to spend when I lived down in the lower 48. I mentioned when we were outside how difficult it is. It's not really difficult, but how I don't have the benefit of natural UV lighting, so I have to use artificial lighting, and I've been refining that over the years for the various tortoises in here. And I think I've got it down to a pretty good science now for the cages that I've implemented it in. And all cages will eventually have the same setup. 1 or 2 tungsten lights, a high output T5 bulb, and LED lights just for more ambient lighting. But everybody, this is how tortoises are taken care of up in the Arctic, Alaska. Thanks for watching.